Hi, it's Katrina! From vanishing ghost islands to strange shark disappearances, here are 8 unsolved ocean mysteries. Number 8. Disappearance of the Kaz II. On April 15, 2007, a trio of novice sailors departed from the Australian Whitsunday Islands in a newly purchased yacht called the Kaz II. The skipper, Batten, and 2 brothers named Peter and John Tunstead were headed home to Western Australia and expected the trip to take around 2 months. 3 days later, the empty vessel was discovered drifting off Australia's Great Barrier Reef. The boat had a ripped sail and the engine was idling. On a table, there was a half-empty cup of coffee and an open newspaper with some pages scattered. There was also a pile of clothing on a bench and several knives strewn about the floor. The scene was eerie, according to rescue officer Corey Benson, who investigated the unoccupied catamaran. It wasn't outwardly suspicious, however, at least in the opinion of coroner Michael Barnes, who ruled the following year that the 3 men had perished as the result of an unfortunate series of events. According to Barnes's theory, one of the Tunstead brothers fell overboard while trying to free a fishing line that had gotten caught on a propeller. The other brother fell into the water trying to save him. Amidst the chaos and in an attempt to rescue both men, Barnes believes Batten also fell overboard. The coroner's conclusion is purely circumstantial, as the men's bodies have never been recovered. Despite this official ruling, some believe their fate was the product of something far more sinister than an unfortunate tragedy, including the possibility that the men staged their own disappearances, or fell victim to pirates, or even perhaps a paranormal force. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Number 7. Cannibal Shark. In November 2003, researchers tagged a 9-foot-long female great white shark off the southwestern Australian coast with the goal of recording her behavior, ambient temperatures, and depth. According to data, 4 months later she dove to a depth of roughly 1,900 feet, suggesting she was attacked by something much bigger in the depths of the ocean. Around that time, the shark's tag washed ashore 2.5 miles away from where it was originally affixed to the shark and was found by a beachgoer. Filmmaker David Riggs, who'd been hired to document the tagging project, believes something must have eaten the shark. But what? Some experts think that the massive shark may have come across an even bigger shark. Cameron Braun, a former doctoral student at the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution in Massachusetts, told National Geographic that cannibalism in sharks is quite common in both juveniles and adults. However, based on the tag's ambient temperature reading from around the time the shark went missing, Braun said that sharks aren't usually found in waters with this temperature. Her fate likely had more to do with her crossing paths with a killer whale, the only species known to be able to take on the great white, other than the great white itself. The strange thing is, killer whales usually only dive to around 100 meters. The deepest dive for a killer whale under forced experimental conditions was 259 meters. Remember that this shark was found to have disappeared around 580 meters. To this day, nobody knows exactly what may have eaten one of the most fearsome predators in the sea. Number 6. 1968 Submarine Disappearances. In 1968, 4 naval submarines mysteriously vanished. It was the deadliest post-World War II year for submariners. The disappearances occurred in the Mediterranean Sea and the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. In total, 318 sailors from Israel, the Soviet Union, France, and the United States were never seen again, and were presumed to have entered eternal rest at the bottom of the sea. The first vessel to go missing was a diesel-electric Israeli submarine called the Dakar. She never arrived in Israel as planned on February 2nd of that year, and communications with the sub had ceased on January 24th. Despite a multi-nation search effort, the Dakar was nowhere to be found. The lost sub was finally found on the seabed between Crete and Cyprus in 1999, but nobody knows why she went down. 2 days after the Dakar disappeared, Minerve, another diesel-electric submarine, went missing. The French vessel was just 30 miles away from its base when all contact stopped. Its remains, including a 52-man crew, were never found. In March, the Soviet K-129 ballistic missile submarine went unresponsive after 7 years in service while on a combat patrol in the Pacific Ocean. The sub and its 98-man crew were declared lost after a weeks-long search. What the Soviet Union considered a loss, the CIA saw as an opportunity to gain access to top-secret codebooks and encryption gear. The K-129's location was pinpointed, but while the vessel was being salvaged, it broke in two, taking its most valuable information to its watery grave. wave. The last to go missing was a U.S. attack submarine called the Scorpion. It disappeared during a classified mission in May and was found by the U.S. Navy 5 months later on the ocean floor of the Azores, with its entire crew lost. To this day, the causes behind the 4 1968 submarine losses remain unclear, puzzling naval engineers, researchers, and historians alike. It is most likely that the Cold War escalated and most of the skirmishes happened in the sea. And now for number 5, but first, if you are new here, be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell so you don't miss out on the latest videos. Number 5. The Bermuda Triangle. The Bermuda Triangle is a roughly 500,000 square mile parcel of ocean between Bermuda, the Greater Antilles, and the Atlantic coast of the Florida Panhandle. It's infamous for its unexplainable disappearances over the years, including over 50 ships and at least 20 airplanes. Reports of the disappearances date back to the mid-19th century, with some ships transmitting distress signals only to never be seen or heard from again, and others that were discovered completely empty, seemingly abandoned. Similarly, airplanes have vanished with no evidence of wreckages ever being found. There are numerous theories regarding what goes on within the Bermuda Triangle, many of them supernatural. However, these disappearances may have been caused by geophysical and environmental factors, including navigational errors due to the failure of pilots to account for something called the agonic line, a place where there's no need to compensate for magnetic compass variation. Rogue waves, which can reach up to 100 feet in height, may have also been responsible for some of the disappearances. This theory is especially plausible because due to its location, the Bermuda Triangle is a prime area for storms from multiple directions to converge, increasing the likelihood of rogue waves. It also seems that all the disappearances happened within a certain time period, indicating that whatever the conditions might have been causing the disappearances have stopped. Some have written off the Bermuda Triangle's bizarre occurrences as mythical or exaggerated. After all, despite the disappearances, thousands of ships and airplanes have traversed the triangle without incident for decades and continue to do so. There's also no evidence that disappearances in this region outnumber those of any other heavily traveled waterway, according to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. What's your theory about what happened in the Bermuda Triangle? Let me know in the comments. Number 4. The Phantom Island of Bermeja. To the northwest of Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula in the Gulf of Mexico lies an island. Well, not anymore actually. The uninhabited island is, or was, known as Bermeja, and it first appeared on a Portuguese map in 1535. Maps drawn by Spanish explorers during the 16th and 17th centuries commonly featured Bermeja, with just slight variations in its location and name, which was to be expected back then. Throughout the 18th century, Bermeja's cartographic appearance decreased, and eventually the island became entirely absent from maps. The 1921 edition of the Geographic Atlas of the Mexican Republic contains the last known mapped appearance of Bermeja. There are multiple circulating theories about Bermeja's fate, including rising sea levels caused by global warming, a catastrophic earthquake, and destruction at the hands of the CIA. The Mexican government commissioned an expedition to find Bermeja in 1997, amidst negotiations between Mexico and the U.S. to delineate a boundary in a stretch of international waters known as Hoyos de Dona, where Bermeja once allegedly existed. However, the search was fruitless. In 2009, renewed search efforts using up-to-date technology once again failed to turn up the island. One theory posits the possibility that Bermeja never existed and was simply a fixture used by cartographers to mislead their rivals. Creating maps with deliberate inaccuracies was a somewhat common practice among early explorers, according to Julio Zamora, president of the Mexican Society of Geography. On the other hand, to some, the detailed descriptions of Bermeja in historical documents point toward the island having existed at one time. In the opinion of Iracema Alcántara from the Autonomous University of Mexico, there's too much written evidence to deny Bermeja existed, but it must have been located somewhere else. Number 3. The Milky Sea Phenomenon. While most ocean mysteries of the past, such as the existence of monsters, have long since been debunked by the scientific community, one strange marvel still exists, but is yet to be explained. It's called the Milky Sea Phenomenon. The spectacle was first mentioned by author Jules Verne in 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. It wasn't recorded in modern logs until 1995, when the British merchant vessel the SS Lima made note of it while sailing in the Indian Ocean. The captain and crew described the effect as glowing water that appeared to cover the entire sea area from horizon to horizon. a distance they knew would take the ship 6 hours to cross from one edge to the other, so they knew it was a pretty large area. In 2005, a team led by Naval Research Laboratory scientist Stephen Miller produced the first ever images of the 5,780 square mile glowing region. Miller admitted in an interview with Live Science that the causes of the Milky Sea Phenomenon are still unknown. The prevailing theory holds that the eerie glow is caused by a massive formation of bioluminescent bacteria. Theoretically, as long as the bacteria have an ample food source, this is entirely possible. Scientists are still trying to get to the bottom of this mystery. Number 2. Blobus Purplus. In 2016, scientists from Ocean Exploration Trust aboard the research ship EV Nautilus discovered an enigmatic purple blob on the ocean floor near the Channel Island National Marine Sanctuary off of California, deep in the Arguello Canyon. They recovered the specimen using a remotely operated vehicle, and once they brought it up, everyone on board was confused. The small purple blob was jokingly nicknamed Blobus Purplus after a vintage Saturday Night Live skit, and the good-natured crew quipped about it possibly being a tiny mama octopus or a spider egg sac. Upon further examination, the researchers concluded that the strange object was likely a previously unknown species of soft sea slug known as a pleurobranch. It's related to the snail but does not have a shell and is simply composed of skin, muscle, and organs. Research has yet to confirm their suspicions. Number 1. The bloop sound. In 1997, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration recorded an extremely loud, ultra-low frequency, never-before-heard sound in the South Pacific. If you don't remember it, here it is. It had a unique pattern and did not display known characteristics of geological phenomena, such as earthquakes or volcanic activity, or man-made noises, such as submarines or drilling, leading some to believe that the noise was made by an undiscovered marine animal. The sound had traveled thousands of miles between autonomous hydrophone listening stations situated deep in the Pacific, meaning that if it was the product of a living creature, it would be one of epic proportions, much larger than any species currently known to man. Scientists announced in 2005 that the bloop sound was caused by an ice quake, which is when icebergs break off of glaciers, and that the event occurred in Antarctica. Most scholars and researchers have accepted this theory. As usual, however, conspiracy theorists aren't satisfied by this logical and most likely explanation. They're quick to point out that the bloop sound signature doesn't exactly match that of an icequake and contains unexplained anomalies. The sound most people have heard has been edited and changed, and that scientists have yet to definitely prove that the sound was caused by an icequake. In their defense, one NOAA scientist has reportedly redacted his opinion regarding the alleged icequake source of the bloop and believes the sound was actually made by an animal. Thanks for watching! Do you want to learn more about ocean mysteries? Let me know in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe and I'll see you next time. Bye!